Okay, today is the day the Ford government will be tabling the 2025-26 budget this afternoon.
Premier Doug Ford signaling that his government's fiscal blueprint will favor spending over balance as a way to keep the economy afloat amid the ongoing trade war and tariff situation with the U.S. Ford has said the province can always balance the budget in a year or two, but for now he wants to spend on infrastructure and programs to keep people employed. Now, when the finance minister does rise at Queen's Park this afternoon, we'll find out those priorities of the re-elected Ford government. But behind the budget speech are weeks and months of number crunching and difficult decisions. Our next guest is someone who's been behind the scenes at Queen's Park as budgets have been crafted. She's now a News Talk 1010 host. In her previous life was Premier Mike Harris's chief of staff. Good morning, Deb Hutton. Thanks for joining us this morning. Let's talk about that work that we don't see. We're going to see the final product in the speech, but the work that goes into crafting a budget, especially right after an election, Deb, what is that like? What kind of days and weeks are we talking about?
Well, this particular one, I think, is really tricky because of the short time frame with re-election, even though the government was in place before and would have done a little bit of work prior to going to the polls. And, of course, Trump tariffs. And so I actually had Minister Bethlen Falvey on my radio show on News Talk 1010 this week. And I said to him, how do you even put any sort of economic forecast into it? And his answer was they're going to do some scenarios. So if this, then this. So this budget will be, I think, a little bit different than previous ones. But in terms of the amount of work that goes into it, Nick, I mean, it is usually weeks and weeks and months. All of the ministries get asked to put forward their priorities and send them into Treasury Board, which is sort of the keeper of the money at Queen's Park. And they send it to the Minister of Finance. And their staff and the civil servants and the two ministers go through all of that and then go back to the ministries and say, okay, we're choosing these particular priorities for spending. Sometimes some programs that don't have a lot of spending, but for the most part, you're looking at things that are either going to raise revenue or are going to spend our tax dollars. And then that gets all put together and you get called in one by one in the ministry. And you get to look at the budget itself and say, yep, that word, that sentence, that concept is great for us over here in the Ministry of A, B, or C. And ultimately, those individual paragraphs get put together and form a budget.
And let's talk about those considerations. It looks like the consideration towards balanced budget, or the concept of that, Deb, seems to have kind of gone by the wayside. That is partly due to coming out of the pandemic, partly due to Trump tariffs, right. Economic situations right now here. Do you think voters or taxpayers are even that concerned about balanced budgets at this point? Or is it more about this whole elbows up, Canada, Ontario first, that kind of thing?
Well, Nick, you've asked me a question that usually makes me very sad because I am a fiscal conservative. Yeah. I like balanced budgets. I don't like adding to the debt and putting that on my kids. But I don't think the public has cared for a very long time, unfortunately, about deficits. And in particular, you mentioned the pandemic. And I think now just not knowing where we're headed with Trump, I think that the general public and I think the ministers themselves and the premier are all quite happy to say we need to put some programs on the table to support our economy and to support our families.
Absolutely. And when you talk about those scenarios that you were describing there, of course, they're just going to put one, scenario going forward today. Do you think we're going to hear like a dark budget? I mean, this is the first budget of a potential 4-year term here, so they've got a lot of time, the government. Or do you think they're going to be a more positive spin saying, hey, we're going to spend this, we're going to protect businesses? Like, what do you think the tone is going to be here?
Yeah, I unlike many governments where you kind of get your dirty work done up front, you make some spending reductions, et cetera. I don't think you're going to see that today at all. I just don't think that's where the premier's head is at. And I think the time frame and the fact that we just talked about deficits not being top of mind for many voters, I don't think you're going to see a difficult budget in terms of spending reductions. I think the wallet is going to be wide open this afternoon.
Okay, we'll watch for that and we'll listen to you, of course, on News Talk 1010. Deb Hutton, thanks for the time this morning. Appreciate you doing this.
Great to chat, Nick.
Okay, take care.